Welcome to Blitz Reviews, how our small review team completed 720 Quality Matters reviews in less than 200 hours. Bob, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you very much. I am Bob Lindsay. I'm the Assistant Director of Quality and Training in the eLearning team at Salt Lake Community College. I'm an adjunct instructor in our education department, and I'm also the QM coordinator for the college. And I've worked at the college for 10 years. I've been involved in the online learning industry for more than 30 years. And today we'll be discussing something we call Blitz Reviews, how we arrived at the process and the results that we achieved. Just some context, Salt Lake Community College is a large community college in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have more than 60,000 students, 10 campuses, and about 25% of all course sections are offered fully online. The college offers more than 700 online course sections each semester. And we've been a subscriber to QM for about 6 years now. And in that time, we've developed 107 courses that have met the QM standard. We have 4 more under review right now. And many of these courses are used as master course shells in high enrollment courses. So we estimate that more than half of all of our online sections use a course shell that has met the QM standard. So, touchy mouse here. Here we go. So all of our reviews are internal reviews. We don't send out our courses for national formal reviews. And we conduct 3 types of internal reviews. The first type we call formal, even though these are internal. We do follow a process similar to external reviews. And so for our stakeholders, they know these as formal reviews. We have 3 reviewers. 2 of those are faculty reviewers and 1 is an instructional designer. And to be a reviewer, we require completion of the APP QMR and PRC courses. Some of our reviewers are even master reviewers and do external reviews for other institutions. And we do compensate our faculty reviewers for their help. The second type we call preliminary or informal reviews. And here we have 1 instructional designer doing a review using the self-review feature in QM's CRMS. They do look at all 42 standards and they document their findings and recommendations for each of the standards. And then the final variety is the abbreviated preliminary. That's what we called it originally. But then we gave it the nickname Blitz Review. That was kind of an internal thing. We'll talk about that in a minute. But even though we have 107 courses that have met the QM standard, that leaves many more courses that have never been reviewed. And in some departments, there might be a master course that meets the standard, but sometimes no mandate for all faculty to use it. So some courses have only been, maybe have 1 section taught by 1 professor, maybe once a year. So there isn't a lot of scrutiny or collaboration with other faculty on those sections that might encourage that professor to polish or keep their course polished. So there were a lot of courses, you could say, hiding in the shadows. So here's our first attempt at maybe accelerating what we were up to. After we subscribed to QM, it wasn't long before we figured out we really wanted to go faster than we were going. For a few years, we tried these preliminary reviews where we were basically sampling online course offerings to see if they met the standards. And let me just quickly describe that process. I would take a list of every online course offered by a department and meet with that department's associate dean. I'd be honest with them and say, I don't have the resources to review every one of your course sections, but we can review 1 section of each course, each unique course code. So let's say there were 50 sections of English 1010. We'd say we can review 1. And the associate dean would tell me which one to review. And generally, they would usually pick the one that they knew was in good shape. So 49 sections would go unreviewed, And if there were any courses with issues, we simply wouldn't see them. And our resources really are limited. Our team didn't have time to complete a thorough QM review of all 42 standards for all 720 course sections. And outsourcing our reviews for national QM reviews was not an affordable option for us either. In about 2 years, we were able to complete preliminary reviews on about 100 courses, which is, that's doing okay. But it was a kind of a drag on our instructional designers' time. They had to fit in those reviews around all of their other work. So let me just throw out a question for you, and if you'll respond in the chat here. For those of you who have experience, For those of you who have experience doing QM reviews or maybe manage reviewers, on average, how long does it take for one reviewer to review one course and document their findings and recommendations for all 42 standards? Go ahead and just throw your response in the chat there. So Amy says 3, Greg says 4, 6 to 8. For days, I don't assume that that's 48 hours. Sometimes 10, 30 for a rookie. Yeah, the first one's always the hardest. 8, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 5 to 6, and 10. Okay, thank you. Here's John with 20. So that's about in the ballpark for what we found. Our reviewers are generally taking about 6 to 10 hours to do a thorough review. It depends on the course, right? The messier they are, the longer it takes. Some of the STEM courses are trickier too. But so as the QMC, I did the math and calculated that reviewing all 720 course sections using even just our preliminary review process would come to maybe 5,000 or 6,000 hours of work. That's 3 full-time designers working nonstop for a year, basically. So we tried something different. So let's talk about Blitz reviews. Here's how they work. I would assign a batch of courses to a reviewer, usually all the online courses in a single academic department. We would ask our reviewers, who were all, again, experienced instructional designers from our e-learning team who had previously done many QM reviews. I would not recommend this process for rookies, but I asked them to quickly scan each course in their batch and spend no more than 30 minutes on each course. I know that sounds a little wild, but we gave them a simplified scorecard where they would document their findings in 7 very high level measures. And here are the 7. Do you see evidence of clear outcomes and objectives? Do you see alignment of assessments to outcomes and objectives? Do you see alignment of learning activities? Do you see alignment of instructional materials? And then give me your gut score. Basically, that's what they're doing. Give me your gut score on whether we've included the information on learner support and a good orientation module that you would expect. Make a comment on the navigation and the layout, and then any issues with accessibility. And you'll notice that those measures don't exactly align with QM's 8 general standards. It's close, but it's not exact. But those are the groupings that worked for us. When you're moving fast and going with your gut, this is just how we decided to break it up. So here is our scorecard. The reviewers would enter their scores in this Excel spreadsheet. They would enter their scores on a scale of 1 to 5. Each cell in the scoring area uses conditional formatting to equate those numbers to a color. So a 5 is green, a 1 is red. And the color coding allowed us to give a very visual report. That's why it's called a heat map here to our administrators. And then on a separate sheet of notes, a second tab in the spreadsheet, basically, the reviewers could write down anything that they wanted to remember for that meeting with the ADs. And the notes were not a list of every finding and recommendation. Usually it was just a note about the most egregious errors or issues that they found. So where a course section was obviously a copy of another course, we found that they could usually confirm that in about 5 minutes. Sometimes it's not obvious. You might have the same homepage, but then you get into it and it's not the same. But where it's a copy, we just say, note that and move on and copy the scores. Whatever it's a copy of, use the same scores. And then there was an extra column that's not on the screen here, but a final column where I asked them to actually document how much time they spent on each course section review. So that gave me the data that I needed to evaluate our process later. And just for your information, the reviewers looked at live sites, actual courses being taught by faculty with students in them. I know that's not the process for formal reviews. They would be looking at a review site, right? But for us, we were in the live sites. But while we were in there, we were not evaluating or looking at faculty to student interactions. We weren't looking at the gradebook or the inbox or assignment feedback. And we would tell the ADs that to ensure them that this was not an evaluation of how instructors were teaching the course. We were simply looking at the design of the course. So I'm going to turn you into associate deans for a second. Let's do a little simulation here. Here is a piece of one of our Blitz review reports. Assume I've just handed you this review. What helpful information can you tease out of this heat map without, spending a whole lot of time reading through findings and recommendations? Just tell me what you think is going on with this report. And you can type it in the chat, or you could unmute and we could have a conversation. So Jen says the art department needs help with alignment. Absolutely. That just pops right out, doesn't it? Deb is saying that we can see the faculty who need more support. Definitely some concerns with accessibility. Looks like everybody needs a better orientation module. Maybe some are not linking out to our institutional syllabus where we list all of the resources that are available. Check out the first 5 music courses. You can see that they have 5 section numbers, 1 through 501 through 505. What's going on with there's only most of them are copies, but there's a slight difference in those 5 course versions. What do you see? Thank you. Professor Mozart is definitely doing their own thing, right? Why do you think that the second column, alignment of assessments to outcomes, is not as green for one as it is for the other 4 that are obvious copies of the others? Candy's got it. Yeah. So they had some great course outcomes, but this professor, who was using a shell that was a master course shell, didn't like having module objectives on their module orientation pages, so they pulled them. So here was an example where it was almost a copy, but not. And because they had taken out those objectives, it was now, this would be an issue in a formal QM review. Brenda's maybe guessing that maybe there's some changes in the assessments. That's possible as well. Okay, so there we did it. We in like 2 or 3 minutes, we teased out some really important information. We don't have all the particulars. Some of that would be in the notes that the reviewer kept, but this is a great starting point for an associate dean to then, start to focus in on where some of their faculty might need some help. Okay, excellent. Thank you for your contributions there. So let me just throw up some calculations here. Based on the numbers that we tracked, our reviewers completed the reviews of 720 course sections over the span of about 2 semesters and spent an average of 13.5 minutes per course for a total of 162 hours. 3 instructional designers did most of that work. So if you divide that 162 hours between 3 people for 2 semesters, it's really just a few hours per week that they spent on this. And in the end, we spent, I calculated, 3 to 4% of that original 6,000 hour estimate. So we would then, of course, take the results of those reviews. And meet with our associate deans. Generally, I assigned, as I said, 1 reviewer to each academic department. So when we had the results, the reviewer and I would go sit down with the associate dean, and review the heat map and answer their questions. The report card allowed ADs to easily spot areas that needed attention, and also allowed them to quickly see who was in good shape, right? In our meeting, we were very careful to tell administrators that, first of all, the findings were unofficial and only an approximation. Very possible when we're moving that quickly that we might have missed something. And we actually had a few professors, call us up and say, "Hey, I got that." And we'd go, "Oh, show us." And, "Oh, of course, there it is. Yeah, no problem." We were also careful to tell the associate dean that the report was not an evaluation of the instructor's teaching, just design. We were careful not to call it an audit or an evaluation, right? This is basically a no harm, no foul bit of information as far as e-learning is concerned. We wanted to be the messengers and not the QM cops. And then we would extend our hand of support. We would just tell them we're here to help. Our team's ready and willing to either, first of all, meet with individual instructors and discuss the findings, maybe schedule a series of consultations with them to work on revisions if that's what they want. Or in several cases, the AD, this was the trigger to tell them, let's do a full redesign of the course. Let's work with e-learning. Let's just overhaul this whole thing. And we would also remind them that one easy fix, like Professor Mozart, for some courses was to simply adopt another version that already meets the QM standard if one was available. Okay, so let's stop there. And this mouse is just tricky. All right, here we go. So let's stop there. I've explained now our Blitz review process. What questions do you have for me before we move forward? You're welcome to type it in the chat or unmute your microphones. First blush. Now you've seen under the hood. You've seen how fast we're moving. What questions or concerns do you have?
Did the faculty know that you were in the courses looking at them?
They did not.
Okay. I'm just not sure how that would go over here. If they, I'll find out.
Right. We were a little worried about that, but we were actually blown away at how welcomed the feedback was. Did faculty argue about it being unofficial? about it not being an official review? No, we didn't hear any arguments that way. Jennifer. Amy, how much was the stipend for faculty reviewers? So I assume you're referring to our formal reviews. We pay our formal faculty reviewers $350 for their reviews. We did not. Yeah, we did not use faculty for the Blitz reviews.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My misunderstanding. I thought, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was wondering, oh, did you pay them a stipend for that? So, okay, that's good to know. So, so then on top of that, that question is what kind of turnaround time? Because I did, make note of the list that you used for the Blitz reviews. When you had faculty look at it, what was the turnaround time that you wanted that back? Because I think one of the biggest things is trying to get everything back so that we can, compile the information.
I'm not sure what you mean by back. Are you saying once they got their feedback, how much time did we give them to fix their course issues?
Or actually, how much time did the reviewers have time to do this, the Blitz review? When they quickly scanned the course, it was 30 minutes or less. So
30 minutes or less.
Okay.
And again, they all work on our eLearning team.
Okay. They were all in the, okay.
They fit it in around their work schedules, their other project work. And we took a couple of semesters actually to do the work.
Okay. Okay, good. Sorry, that was my misunderstanding.
But the total amount of work was less than 200 hours. Yeah, we don't want to be the QM cops. There is a mandate at our college that all online courses meet the QM standard. That was set 5-6 years ago by Faculty Senate and the provost. But there's no hard, oh goodness. In that policy, there's nothing that says who's going to enforce it, and it's not eLearning, right? We're not the cops. We can't tell faculty what to do. We're here to help. We wish associate deans would put a little more pressure on faculty where there are courses that aren't up to snuff, but it's more of a diplomacy approach at this point for us. Let's see. I'm sorry. I've probably missed some comments here.
Sure, Bob, I can help.
Yeah, please.
So
John,
Deb,
yes,
John,
yes, $350 for a full review for 2 faculty. So it costs us $700 to do our internal formal reviews.
Deb is anxious to know what happened next.
Oh, that's the next slide. You're getting ahead of me, Deb. Anybody else?
Jennifer said, I do like your heat map. We've been doing internal reviews, and this would be a great tool to see what standards we may have the opportunity for growth on.
And this is not, thank you, this is not a knock on the CRMS, but the reports that come out of a CRMS with long lists of findings and recommendations those are the reports we used to give to the ADs when we did the preliminary reviews. And I would, bring in a stack this thick of the printouts sometimes and say, here's everything we found with the samples of courses that we reviewed. I don't know how closely the ADs ever, read those. And some of them would forward those preliminary reviews onto their faculty, and I happen to know some didn't. They just kept them on file. So I do like that this is a quick snapshot. They can digest the information easily. And yeah, so let's answer Deb's question. Let's go to the next slide here. What were the results? So just let me summarize. So we finally had a system that could scale without requiring massive amounts of time. We can complete the Blitz reviews annually if needed or requested. No courses had been overlooked. We had a comprehensive report on every online section. Our administrators were grateful. It's one of the, I don't know, it's been one of the high points of the last year or two as far as feedback from our stakeholders is how much they enjoyed the Blitz reviews. And they were also grateful for having some third-party data, I guess is what you'd call it, a second opinion that they could take to their faculty. Interestingly, the ADs would often look at the heat map, see the courses with all the red and say something like, yeah, that's what I thought, right? I mean, they were already kind of looking at their faculty's courses and kind of knew some had issues. But for some reason, it's one thing for an AD to say to their faculty, hey, I think you should spend some time polishing your course, versus, hey, eLearning has identified some issues with your course and I think you should work on it. It was just a little extra nudge. And so what we're hearing is administrators are anxious for us to do another round of Blitz reviews this year. We also found that faculty who got lots of green on their reports were happy to be recognized for their good work. And then we were also able to identify some outliers, right? Mostly adjuncts who often it wasn't that they didn't know how to design a good course. It was usually that they just simply didn't have the latest version of the course, or somehow they'd been left out of the loop. Their course coordinators hadn't shared the show with them or something. Or maybe they were in love with the old version of the course and didn't want to update. But anyway, this quickly pointed out where those outliers were. And in other instances, we were able to identify a few who just weren't keeping up and needed a lot of extra support, which is all good. The effort resulted in actually many faculty coming to eLearning and requesting help to improve their courses, which is great. That's why we're here. And who benefits the most from any and all course improvements? It's our students. So it's all good. And I don't want anybody to think that these Blitz reviews are an attempt by our college to simplify or shortcut the QM rubric. Our goal is still to ensure that all of our online courses meet all the standards of the QM rubric. And so these Blitz reviews are not a substitute for the more comprehensive reviews. We just see it as an opportunity to get our foot in the door and encourage faculty and administration to come and learn more about QM. So that is basically my presentation. I have 3 questions because my goal is continuous improvement. And so I would welcome your input here. First of all, what did we get right? Second, what could we do better? And third, is there anything here that you could apply or adapt for your institution? Go ahead and enter that in the chat or turn on your mics. I'd love to hear from you.
Hey, Robert, this is John, and
Yeah.
I would love to adopt your heat map into our. I'm in the K-12 world, but I love the what you have. It's condensed and time efficient. I may have missed it. Is your slide deck available as the materials, and if it's or will it be shared?
The slide deck is available on the
Okay, all
conference
right.
website.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll double check. Thanks.
I'll throw up my email address here in a second, and if you want, I can email you a blank spreadsheet for the heat map.
Hi, this is Roz at FSW.
Yeah.
And I was mentioning I didn't think our faculty would be too pleased with having their courses
Snooped on.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though we desperately want to kind of get that picture. I thought maybe faculty may agree to doing it if their courses were kind of anonymously reviewed. So looking first more at a department level, like maybe some of our major courses like English 1101 are how how consistent are those sections, or is it just all over the heat map? Where we could address kind of at a departmental level, so nobody feels like they're being picked on specifically. But
well,
yeah.
every institution is different. Here's a suggestion. In fact, we probably should have done it this way. If you were to go to an associate dean, and our associate deans all have rights to snoop, right? They could look in on any section for any professor in their department. If you were to go to the associate dean first and say, would you like me to compile, would you like me to survey the sections in your department and give you a report on what we find? At that point, you've now got permission, whether the faculty like it or not. And then again, the report goes to the associate dean, not to the faculty. And then they can choose how to share it with their employees. Let's see, what else do we have here? Was this developed pre or post COVID? Good question, Jennifer. We were actually, so the preliminary review process had been in place for a couple of years, and we weren't moving fast enough. We were starting to pilot the Blitz review process in spring of 2020. And so it was not motivated by COVID. We already had those wheels turning. What we got right, adapting a process to meet an immediate need. Thank you. At what point did instructors get informed that their course had been reviewed? Again, that was up to the associate dean. We did not meet with faculty. And so we would get in the loop when the faculty would call us, because we would tell the associate dean, please, one solution here is for them to call us and get help. And we did get quite a few calls. Let's see. Would there be ways to involve faculty in these reviews? I suppose one advantage we have being e-learning employees is that we have admin rights, so we can look at any course anytime. We'd have to set up a faculty reviewer for that, which could create some issues. I don't know. Maybe Brenda, as I'm thinking about it, we have faculty who are assigned to be, they're called course coordinators in the larger departments, right? There'd be like one or two who just basically own English 1010 or own Math 1040. And they really should be keeping an eye on their faculty. Although those are usually not the departments that have issues. They're already enforcing the rule that says, adjuncts have to use the course shell, the master course. So I don't know, I'd have to think about that one some more. Let's see. Candy, we enroll reviewers with aliases. I'm not sure if anonymous reviews would solve the problem or create more problems. Right? I mean, when does snooping become okay? I don't have an answer for you there, Candy. Oh, I knew this question was going to come, Cynthia. I don't have hard metrics on how many called us. You're right, we have thousands of, a couple of thousand employees, a couple of thousand instructors, if you count all the adjuncts. And so we weren't necessarily hoping to hear from everybody, and many, right, more than 50% of the sections are all green anyway. So sorry, I wish I had better numbers, I don't. Brenda, oh, absolutely. Our faculty reviewers are rock stars, and we've had them make presentations about quality matters in our annual e-learning showcase, and just sing praises about how much they learn about course design by reviewing other courses. And so, yeah, that will always be true. Candy, our instructors submit courses for review. So there's actually no mandate at our college that faculty have to work with eLearning to create an online course. All of the courses that are created in collaboration with faculty in the eLearning department, we never do it solo, but all of the ones that we do in collaboration with faculty must actually meet the QM standard. That's our target, is by the end of the usually 2 semester design process that we go through with them. If we're going to do a complete overhaul, right, we tear it back to the studs and build from scratch. It takes a couple semesters. And at the end of that process, the course will always meet the QM standard. Or if it doesn't pass on the first review, after revisions, it will. That's our target every time. And that's where most of those 107 came from, our courses that went through our formal process. Okay. Comments are slowing down here. Let me just throw up my contact information here. If anybody has a desire to compare more notes, give me a call, or I'm sorry, shoot me an email here. I really appreciate the chance to compare notes with you, and thanks to everybody who contributed today. You can go tell someone you were an associate dean for 3 minutes. Feel free to contact me if you want to talk some more. I am done, and the conference is done, and it was a great conference. So have a safe flight home. Oh, wait, that's not this kind of conference. Anyway, we will see you next year.
Thank you very much, Bob. And thank you all for participating. I'm going to stop the recording now.